This pointedly expressive D major/minor tune was composed in March 1967 during the Pepper Sessions. Paul takes this overarching theme of the lonely man and develops it, much like John does in Nowhere Man, in a somewhat different but equally remarkable fashion. Similar to how he handled Penny Lane after listening to John's Strawberry Fields Forever, Paul's retelling keeps the audience somewhat mystified as to the identity of the fool. On March 29, 1967, while Paul and John were trying to finish writing a new song for Ringo to sing for Pepper, which ended up being With a Little Help from My Friends, The Fool on the Hill made its debut at St. John's Wood. Hunter Davies, who was present as well, remembers Paul showing the tune to John with his guitar as they smoked pot. When at last he finished, Hunter said, John said he'd better write the words down or he'd forget them. Paul said it was okay, he wouldn't forget them. In the end, John did like the lyrics, once saying, "The Fool on the Hill is Paul, proving that he can write lyrics if he's a good boy."
Another good lyric. It's not a John Lennon song, it's a Paul McCartney song. He's capable of writing a complete song.
Paul added,
I was writing about someone like Maharishi. Because of his giggle, he wasn't taken too seriously. I know some people think that my description of the Maharishi as a fool is disparaging. That's not the case at all. I often get the fool card during a tarot reading, for example. I remember once hearing about a hermit who missed the Second World War because he'd been in a cave in Italy, and that always appealed to me. Saviors or gurus are generally spat upon, so I thought from my generation, I suggest that they weren't as stupid as they looked.
It is possible for every man to go deep within and saturate his conscious mind with inner happiness.
Paul relates the eventual composition of the song to his connection with his father, Jim McCartney.
He was so proud of me. He was tickled by the fact that his son was recognized. He would spot someone who had recognized me, and he would go,
"They got you, they got you."
In a strange way, it's precisely because people had got us that we were no longer able to be quite ourselves, which then left the Beatles so open to the possibilities the Maharishi offered. We needed to recenter ourselves, to get back to basics.
Although the Beatles only met their Maharishi on July 24, 1967, following his lecture in London on the same day, Paul had started penning the lyrics to The Fool by the end of March 1967, so it's likely that he had the guru in mind before then. Paul clearly had a lot of faith in this song because on April 11th, after his return flight from America, during which he had the original idea for the movie Magical Mystery Tour, he had the insight to include this unfinished song on his original pie chart for the project. The Fool on the Hill was prepared over several days, the 6th, 25th, and 26th of September, and 20th of October 1967. Jeff Emmerich remembers, "During the second night that we were working on I Am the Walrus, Paul asked me to stay late so I could record him doing a simple piano/vocal demo of a new song he had written. When he finished, he asked me what I thought, and I gave him a thumbs up through the control room window. 'That sounds like the start of a really good song,' I said. 'What's it called?' 'It's my newest one for the film. It's called The Fool on the Hill,' Paul replied proudly. It took the boys over 3 more weeks to start working on the track. Throughout that time, they were still working on other songs and filming the movie. The Beatles went into EMI Studio 2 on September 25th to continue recording Paul's new piece, featuring Paul on piano and John on acoustic guitar on the basic rhythm track, take 3 being the best. Then came the overdubs. Ray Thomas and Mike Pinder of the Moody Blues overdubbed this song, and Ray came up with the idea to use harmonicas. In the original demo showed in Anthology 2, Paul sets the tune's tonal ambiguity in a 4-bar piano opening. This was kept in the initial group recording, which can also be found in Anthology 2, but was eliminated in the final version. Later, on the 26th, the boys came back for more work on it, this time without either Jeff Emmerich or George Martin in the control room. Ken Scott took charge of the studio control room for this session, even though it was only his second day as a Beatles balance engineer. He was, understandably, a little flustered, as Richard Lush recalls. He was so nervous that it was just unbelievable. He was saying, "What lights do I use and what do I do?" I really felt for him that day. The Beatles always put a bit of pressure on their engineers. They expected you to be there doing your job, but there wasn't a lot of thanks. The video for the song was shot in Nice, France. It was spontaneously created on an unrelated trip Paul made to France and was actually not in the original plans for the film. With a small camera crew and very low budget, it turned out to be one of the most visually stunning scenes in the entire film.
You know, and I just wandered off to France and did that Fool on the Hill stuff just one morning with a couple of mates. You know, it wasn't quite union. So I said, let's just take one camera down to the south of France. I said, let's just wait till the sun comes up and I'll just goof around and I'll just sing it. And that's the footage we use now. And I myself had started making kind of home movies. I had a 16mm Bolio camera, French camera, which was great. I used to have a lot of fun with. And I would make these films and put a soundtrack to them. And they were, I suppose you'd call them art films. So I thought, well, we could maybe try this same technique. So we did. We just got up in France very early in the morning in order to catch the sun rising. And then I just wandered around, talked to the cameraman. He said, this looks like a good shot. And then I just did various things while we played back the song. We didn't bother with sync. We didn't bother with keeping it very in time. And we didn't bother with things that proper filmmakers bothered with, like clapboards, in order to be able to synchronize the film and the sound later, which did end up as a nightmare when we got to the editing suite. It also made the whole thing very simple to do and very instinctive. So that's how it was made. The filming of Fool on the Hill sequence took the morning. Basically, we were just in the south of France for a morning. And by the time we reached noon, the lighting had moved from where we wanted it. So I think we went back to the hotel just a bit later, got on the plane, and then filmed out of the plane window to get the setting sun and the clouds.
After the intricate music of Sgt. Pepper, fans paid a lot of attention to the Fool on the Hill when it came out because it sounded so unique and cleverly made. Still, so many people overlook the Fool on the Hill, overshadowed amid the Beatles' rich catalog. But the Fool on the Hill sees the sun going down, and the eyes in his head still see the world spinning round.
I was looking out over all the Red Square buildings, all this great sort of Russian scenery that I'd only ever seen in films before. And I looked up, and there was me looking over Red Square, and the sun was just going right down over that building. And the eyes in his head, and it's like, it's just me. I'm going, ah! This is happening. It's magical.